So we'll continue with nervous system information, and we'll have recording started in a moment, hopefully. Any day would be fine. It would be happily taken care of. Okay, so we're recording. So in the brain, we have centers, which are a collection of neurons with a shared function, such as in the occipital lobe, the visual cortex, up around the temporal bone, the auditory cortex. A nucleus is a center with cell bodies that perform a discrete function. Neural cortex is the gray matter covering the brain. The white matter is the bundles of axons that are myelinated by oligodendrocytes. And the white matter greatly increases the speed of conduction in order to move information very quickly out to your muscles or move it to your brain and output from your brain in the white matter. So in the peripheral nervous systems, ganglia are a grouping of neuron cell bodies outside the central nervous system. A nerve is a bundle of axons supported by connective tissue. Spinal nerves carry messages to and from the spinal cord. Cranial nerves carry messages also, but they originate in the brain, in the medulla oblongata and the pons, and they're involved in functions such as smell or olfactory function, in movement of the eyes, vision, carrying information to the visual cortex, for instance. So we'll talk about these cranial nerves as we get to them. So what's the organization of the whole nervous system? So the gray matter surrounds output to muscles, for instance, then white matter and so on. Gray matter is for instance, a ganglion right outside the central nervous system. The central nervous system has neural cortex, which surrounds the entire brain with gray matter. And then there are also centers, collection of neuron cell bodies in the central nervous system with a specific function. Nuclei or little accumulations of nerve cell bodies in various parts of the nervous system. The higher centers, such as the frontal cortex, the somatosensory cortex, so parts of the brain that ultimately analyze all sensory input. The motor cortex, which we'll talk about in a moment. Tracts are in the central nervous system. Nerves are in the peripheral nervous system. These columns are bundles of axons that send information from the spinal cord into the brain and send information out from the brain to through the spinal nerves and through the cranial nerves. Okay, so columns connect to the brain. They collect information. You can see the information is going from the periphery into the brain. You can see motor pathways are carrying information from the brain to the exterior. So this is sensory input in these columns, and motor output also coming from the brain. Ascending pathways are carrying afferent sensory information to the brain. Descending pathways are sending information for skeletal muscles to be able to contract and allow you to walk, sit in a chair, do various activities such as learned activities. And so those columns are very, very important. Okay, so let's move on. All nerve cells, muscle cells, and other cells maintain a resting potential or resting voltage. That happens because the cells build up sodium outside the cell, and they build up potassium inside the cell. And so when you do a reading of the inside of the cell versus the outside, you have the inside being minus 70 millivolts. Okay, let's stop there, go back to this. Someone has joined, admit. Okay, so we'll stop recording.